Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for June 21st, 2016. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of the Finance Committee minutes of June 7th, 2016.
After review of the minutes, do we have any corrections?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2 will be scratched from the agenda. The purchasing committee did not meet due to a quorum. Item number 3.
Consider approval of a resolution declaring a parcel of property located at 920 South G Street as surplus property and authorize conveyance of this property to Lester Newkirk as part of the Surplus Property Incentive Program or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Okay, there we go.
You're on.
All right. As stated in the agenda item, this is surplus property that Mr. Newkirk wants to use as part of the Surplus Property Incentive Program and therefore build a structure on the property, and we recommend approval.
Any questions or discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4.
Consider approval of a resolution declaring a parcel of property located at 206 West Southside Boulevard between South 2nd and South 3rd Street on West Southside Boulevard as surplus and authorize conveyance of this property to Victor Oliveira as part of Surplus Property Incentive Program or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, this is another property that falls into the category of surplus property for an incentive where the person listed, Mr. Olvera, agrees to improve the property within a year, and we recommend that we do approve this item.
Move the approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed. Item number 5.
Consider approval of 3 agreements with the following: Porter Public Works Authority, Rural Water District Number 5, and the Haskell Public Works Authority for the sale of treated water, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreements or take other necessary action.
Nat?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is the final 3 water contracts that have been outstanding. They have all been approved by the respective authorities and districts. There have been no substantive changes, and it is simply a re-execution on an annual basis of the same, and I would recommend approval and be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item 5 passed. Item number 6, please.
Consider approval of the Community Development Block Grant Fiscal Year 2016 application documents, Citizen Participation Plan, Applicant Resolution, and Leverage Resolution, committing up to $134,308 as leverage relating to the Oklahoma Department of Commerce Small Cities Set-Aside Grant Fund Program, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan?
Thank you, committee. This is a request of approval to submit the Community Development Block Grant application to the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. And with that, we're also requesting approval for the required application documents, which include the Citizen Participation Plan, the Applicant Resolution, and the Leverage Resolution. Initially, the City of Muskogee was offered $96,725 from the CDBG Small Cities Set-Aside Program. And then those funds have now been reallocated, and the city has been offered $134,308 with a requirement to match it at 1-to-1 or with $134,308. A small portion of that, about 6%, we can use as admin, so that would be about $8,000 less. Annually, the city's budget is approved with $100,000 for demolition, with the intent to match the CDBG funds. So if the city of Muskogee chooses to not budget an additional $34,308 towards the match of the CDBG grant, we will submit the application with requesting only the $100,000 and leverage it with our budgeted funds of $100,000. The reallocation came in after all the budget was kind of outlined and lined out at that time. The proposed project activities for this grant include demolition, and it's classified as demolition, clearance, removal of junk and debris, and/or abandoned inoperative vehicles. While we'll continue to use continue with the demolition with the Foundation 400 project, we will use the CDBG funds to enhance the demolition, but also be used for the abatement of nuisances, which is not being funded by the foundation this year. And as the eligible project activities are demolition, but also clearance and removal of junk and debris, these funds could be used for the abatement program, which isn't being funded, but that this could now continue on that program in a collective way and maybe enhance the nuisance abatement project farther. So right now there is a public hearing scheduled for Monday night. It's a application requirement. It's part of the citizen participation plan, and it is Monday at 7 o'clock during the city council meeting, and it is the explanation and public hearing to receive public comments on the projects and to let the public know what projects we are proposing. But at this time, we just need the application approved to submit and the application documents approved.
So you don't need any authorization for the match on tonight?
No, it would be, I guess, by Monday night.
Okay.
But it would be that I would have to change, if we cannot match the 134,308, I would need to change all the documents to reflect that it is only the 100,000. So I guess you are right, I would need to either that or wait until Monday night to decide on the extra 34,000.
Gary, didn't we have 30,000 that was set aside for nuisance abatement?
Yes.
Couldn't that be used?
as match or
It's, as long as it's city funds
It is
and
city
it is
funds.
used for
do that.
that project, it has to be. I mean, it's like I couldn't take street funds and do demolition and call
Right.
that being demolition.
Well, we did
so
set
yes.
aside 100,000 for this match, but if we were able to use the nuisance abatement that we set aside at 30,000, and then if we are able to get credit for the 8,000 administrative
Yes.
costs, we're within the range of approval.
And if we use that 30,000 from the nuisance program, that won't take away from any existing programs that we need, or can we use the grant to do that?
We can use the grant to do that, too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it would then be, almost like a $60,000
Right.
towards nuisance abatement.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 6 passed. Item number 7.
Consider approval of the appointment of Reverend Roger L.B. Cutler to the Board of Adjustment to serve a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2016 and ending May 31st, 2019, replacing Ernie Gilder, or take other necessary action.
Councilman Coleman.
Mr. Chairman, we are recommending that Reverend Roger L.B. Cutler serve on the Board of Adjustment. He's been a very active member of our community, very involved, very engaging, very concerned about things that go on in Muskogee, and I'm pleased to recommend him as presented.
Any discussion?
That was my
Second.
motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 8, please.
Consider approval of receiving donated funds for the month of May 2016 in the amount of $220 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take other necessary action.
Chief.
Mr. Chairman, for the month of May, we received a total of $220 in donations, and although this is light, we still have access to some considerable funds that we want to make some improvements with at the shelter, but for the month of May, we received $220. So, but we still have access to a larger amount of monies from fur babies, or through fur babies, I beg your pardon.
Any questions or discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 8 passed. In 8 minutes, we finished. That's the final item for Finance Committee.
We will now call the Public Works Committee to order, and we don't do roll call on these, right?
Right.
Okay. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of June 7th, 2016.
Any question or comment on the minutes? additions or corrections? If not, would entertain a motion.
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 2.
Discuss traffic signal warrant analysis on the signal at 12th Street and Broadway Street and take possible action to authorize the removal of the traffic signal at said intersection and replace the same with a 4-way stop sign, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, this past winter, that signal at 12th and Broadway was out of service for quite some time. And by the way, that signal is run by some equipment that is almost obsolete now. But while it was operating under a 4-way stop, and it was ran that way for quite some time, there was no complaints at all. I even visited with some of the business owners over there to see how they felt like that signal worked with a 4-way stop, and they all felt like it worked even more efficiently with the 4-way stop than it did with the traffic signal. So after we did get it back in operation, I did visit with Mr. Tucker and asked him if he would authorize us to go out for a traffic signal warrant study. And he did authorize that. That study was approved for $1,200, and we had traffic engineering consultants prepare that for you. That's part of your packet. John Eshelman with TEC did the warrant study. After review of it, he did come back and say that it met none of the 3 volume driven warrants and that the signal could come out. So we are asking for authorization to remove the signal and to put it in as a 4-way stop. We've also visited with Mr. Eshelman on the appropriate way to lane line it, to see if we needed to remove the turn lanes or if there's any changes that need to be made to that. I apologize, I didn't get an aerial up for you to review, but Mr. Eshelman said that we could go ahead and put it in just as it is right now, as it's marked now. So we'd simply take the signal light out if you authorized it, and we'd put 4-way stops up. We would do the script writing of stop on the street, and we would put 48-inch stops up so that they were very apparent. And we would put stop ahead. So we'd take all the appropriate action that we could to make sure it was visibly noticed to be a 4-way stop. And we're also talking about the LED-driven stop signs. We think those are very, very useful, and we think that would control this intersection better than it is now. So we recommend approval of a 4-way stop at that intersection and removal of the traffic signal.
Questions or comments?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comment or question further? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 3.
Consider approval of a memorandum of agreement between the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the City of Muskogee Davis Field Airport regarding utilization of designated facilities or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart again.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee, it's my pleasure to introduce Drew Saffel as our new interim airport manager. He comes to us highly credited in the airport management. He has management training. He's an OSU graduate. He comes with training through the Wichita Airport. He has quite an extensive military background, and we're very proud to have Drew on board. He's not up on this item. This is only his second day working, so I'll present it. What this item is, Carl Tucker with FEMA Region 6 reached out to us because they did have an MOA, a Memorandum of Agreement with Davis Field that had expired. So this is simply a renewal of an MOA that was at Davis Field. This is so that Davis can be utilized if FEMA needs it as a Region 6 disaster airport. And that would really come into place if Fort Worth, Dallas Airport had issues and they needed to respond to this area. And Davis has the appropriate landing strips and accommodations that would set them up. Carl came to town. He would actually come to this meeting if need be. I didn't want to see him have to drive all the way from Fort Worth just for this little piece, but I did tell him if there was questions I couldn't answer, it could be forwarded to Monday night, and he would then show. So he did offer to make that appearance. Wanted to make sure you knew that. This is simply an agreement that is renewed. Matt has reviewed it. FEMA attorneys have reviewed it, and again, it's just so that we'd have a disaster resource in this area in case they needed it. So we do recommend approval. This was on the airport board agenda time before, but we didn't have a quorum, so we simply discussed it. I failed to get it back on the airport agenda this last time, but it still needs to be approved. I recommend approval, and I will go over that with the board at the next meeting.
What's the duration of the agreement?
You caught me off guard on that one. Let's see.
(2021).
Is it 2020? I was thinking it was 5 years, but I wasn't sure.
Those are standard time frames. Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivy Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion
And
carries.
Mayor,
Item-
before
Yes,
we
sir.
move on, I'd invite any of y'all to come out and visit with Drew. He's a very nice young man.
Thank you.
Come out to the airport and visit with him.
Welcome aboard. Number 4.
Discuss and provide necessary direction to staff on security needs of city facilities, including City Hall.
Councilman Van.
Good evening. It's good to be back home. Had a lovely trip. And this item here has been on my mind for quite some time. If you go downstairs, when we come through the front door, there's no kind of security there. And it's easy for somebody just to come in there and wipe us all out, right? Just like right now. Somebody could come through that door right there, and we all be sitting ducks up here. So I think as a city, we need some type of security in our front lobby. I went to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and this is one of the pictures that I took down there with the security guard. And there in North Carolina, the executive part, they have it's a 3-story City Hall building. The police station is right next to the City Hall. And on the second floor, you have the city manager, you have the mayor, you have the treasurer, and you have, let's see, one more. In other words, it's similar to like it is here. But the thing there is, when you go see the city manager, anybody, the assistant city manager, he's up there also. But when you go see these people, you have to sign in. Only thing is, like when I walked in that day right here on this picture, I would have had to tell the security guard to call upstairs and talk to the lady. Would have came down. I wouldn't have seen the mayor or the city manager that day. It would have been a scheduled appointment. You just don't walk up in City Hall and see those people. Now on the first floor, like for permits and paying for water bills and stuff like that, you get to see him. You get to see those people. Those are the ones you get to see. But the security guard had you all these people on monitors. If you show the next picture, Mr. Garvin. See the monitors on those halls? He got you covered, coming and going. And like I said, it's just something that they invested in. I didn't ask them what the price, and I didn't ask them how much it cost. But like I say, as you can see, it's a real nice setup. And I think, like I said, I think it would help if we had something like that here in Muskogee or something to protect us from being up here and protect our employees, which would be the most important thing. And the next picture, that's City Hall. That's how it looks on the outside. And like I said, I just thought I'd bring this to your attention. I would like to see something done to protect us from having to, go. I hate to say that something's going to happen, but nowadays, you just never, ever know. And we'll be doing our employees a justice to protect them. I'm not saying Chief can't protect them back there now, but it don't look good from this situation. One thing I learned in the police academy, when you go in the room, always look at your exits. That was one thing I learned quickly. And coming through City Hall, it's so easy to do. Another thing is, when we have council meeting, it's so easy to do. Those doors are left wide open. Somebody could come through those doors and put a bomb, and we all be gone. So we need to be thinking about some things on protecting us up here at this city. I know we can put water lines in and stuff like that, which is good, and signs, pretty signs up, but we need some protection here at City Hall for us. So I just thought I was out of town, and I was just so happened I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina. That's where this is. And so I went and visited them, and I just thought, I'm out of town. I'm thinking about Muskogee the whole time, and I really enjoyed it. The guy gave me a nice tour, and I thought it would have been a picture of City Council chambers on here, but I don't see one. But I tell you what, they got a nice City Council chambers. They also, in the City Council chambers, they have that 3 minutes. So it must be another Ivory Van down there in North Carolina somewhere, the 3 minutes. But really, another thing I noticed when in the chambers, was like the city attorney and the city manager. They don't sit up here. They have their own little platform. Table. Also on this side of it, the media, like Mr. Smoot, he would be on that side. But also the city clerk, she sets a separate place. But it's just everybody in different cities do things different. But like I said, I wish it would have put a picture of how that city chamber looked, because it's very, very beautiful. So I would like y'all to take consideration on this. And like I said, I just want some protection.
We've talked before about security, and I think with changing times, we always need to be aware of security and things that that may crop up. And we've talked about making some changes at the request of staff here as far as the entry. I think we always need to be cognizant of how we're displaying to our customers, and our community is our customer. And I think there's part of it is as people walk in, we're not very friendly. As you walk in, you may not know where to go. And I think part of that is how to direct them where to go and where they're going. But one thing that I don't want us to do, and I think that can easily take place, a whole bunch was spent after 9/11 that changed our whole lives. And yet, it's really been determined that air flight is not any safer than what it was before. And so we have to be really aware of when we take safety measures that we're doing it for the right reason. We're not just reacting. And in this manner is we don't want to just say we're going to spend this money for this reasoning. We just went through a budgetary process, and a lot of what I heard last year is we want to do this, we can always find money for what we want to do. We've pretty well set aside a budget process, and if we're going to do anything different, we need to take away from this budget to come up with the funding to do something. So if we decide we're going to do this, we need to take away from something to make sure we're going to do this. So if we have an idea, we need to take away from the budget to come up with something. So that's the only thing that my concern would be, is if we have an idea, we got to come up with a funding structure to do that. We're going to have to take away from something to do that. So, I believe security is an important part, but before we step out there and say we need all these things, we're going to have to come up with a funding structure to do that, because we're going to have to take away from existing services that exist in our community.
Are there other comments or questions?
Mr. Tucker, how much would it cost you to actually investigate what it would cost? We routinely ask the staff to bring us back a recommendation of what it would cost, and I'm certain that in your direction, should we go that way, you may be able to pursue some collaborative efforts that may not cost us more if we can use the staffing that we have, particularly since we've demonstrated our ability to assign officers to areas that may not be historically their responsibility in any cost.
One of the things I will say that it wouldn't cost us anything to investigate it and come back with a recommendation. One of the things that many of you may remember that I brought up at the retreat that we had a few weeks ago was in an effort to improve customer service, to address some concerns that you, Councilor Johnson, have stated and that I've heard and observed myself. When you have somebody entering City Hall not knowing where to go, we have been working toward a plan which will be implemented very soon, to install an information desk at the front lobby. Now that'll serve two purposes. One, to serve as a person to direct those citizens who come in to speak with city officials or to turn on city services, so that individual will be able to direct them to those locations. Secondly, that individual can serve as the eyes and ears. Now, obviously, we're not in a position yet to talk about paying a security guard or anything of that nature, but nonetheless, to have someone just observe things that are going on in City Hall, be aware of who comes into the building, whether or not they leave, things like that. And so we've got a plan in place now that we're working through to make that happen. Now, one of the other things that we've talked about and I think is important is to ultimately have some level of security, not just an informational desk to serve as eyes and ears, but to have a more secure facility. And as Councilman Johnson said, we have discussed that over the last several years. And so one of the things that I propose is to go with the plan that we have now for the information desk. Will include a, for lack of a better term, panic button on there if the person working the desk sees something that causes them concern. We currently have them in other places in City Hall, so that would not be something unheard of. And then after working through that for a couple of months, then make a redetermination as to whether we need to move to phase 2 now or if it's something that would be a more long-term plan to decide what level of security that we need to have. Because I think even in the pictures that Councilor Van showed, there wasn't such thing. I mean, they didn't have a metal detector. They really just had somebody there who was watching and observing and who could report if there was anything that was suspicious. Now, this person, I don't know if he was armed or not.
Yes, he was
armed.
Another thing you saw, I'm sorry, but on those panic buttons, in each area of City Hall there, they do have a panic button. Code enforcement upstairs, what the city manager is. Oh, city clerk is what I forgot just a while ago. They're upstairs on the second floor. That's the higher level. They have 3 floors, but they're remodeling the other one right now.
Right.
But I was just wondering, Mr. Tucker, is any way, I don't know how, I know we do things through the foundation and our, out of season grant. To me, this is, I don't know if they would fund anything like this, but to me, this is our life. This is our safety. Sitting in these chairs and our employees, they ought to mean everything to us.
Absolutely.
Is there something wrong with going to the foundation trying to get the funds for this?
The out-of-cycle grants for the foundation are generally for economic development. They have expressed concern about funding our request for capital improvements because, as they've said, that should be funded through the city. One of the other things that we could do is, as you all remember through the budget process, we are working on a projection of cash carryover that we're going to have once we close out this fiscal year. And that number, as I told Ms. Rutlinger when she came up to the podium, is dependent on what funds were budgeted, because last year all funds were budgeted, but we're going to have some level of cash carryover depending on what was budgeted but ultimately wasn't spent, and that could be because a need was determined that it could wait, with savings from unfilled positions, bids came in at less than we budgeted, and so as the Treasurer's Office begins to close out the books for the year, we will have a better idea as to the exact amount of cash carryover we're going to have. And if that number is higher than what we projected, then we will have some additional, I wouldn't say additional revenue, but we will have some funding that will go on the bottom line. If you remember, we had about $100,000 that was unbudgeted for this last year, and that money came from our projection for cash carryover. So in the next couple of months, we'll know whether our projections were 100% accurate or whether they needed to tweak a little bit. And so what my suggestion would be to move forward with the plan that we have now to install the information desk, close out our books for this year, make a determination whether our cash carryover is sufficient that we can and make those types of improvements. And meanwhile, we can continue to look at cost measures for how much doing like that would cost, because just like anything else, if you want to do the Cadillac or if you want to do the Pinto, you still get from point A to point B, but it's just in what kind of style you arrive. And so we can do that now, begin looking at the different cost variations that we have.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
On the information desk, that person's in at their information desk, could they be licensed to carry and have a weapon on them?
No, they'd have to be CLEAT certified to do that. And that individual we'd have to take from the police department in order to do that. Otherwise, we'd have to contract out to pay someone who else is CLEAT certified, like private security. and we can put that together in our proposal. That's not what our plan is now. Our plan is to have our information desk, someone who is already on staff, who can be the eyes and the ears, and who can direct citizens where they need to go. And was the security guard in yours, did he direct citizens where they needed to go, or was he just purely there to witness?
He directed them.
Okay.
But my problem I have with this desk downstairs is that somebody coming here with a gun, that person with that desk downstairs is saying, "Hi, how you doing? Good to see you, City Hall." Bam, bam, bam. We got a problem. And then that's when we're going to get busy then. And like I say, to me, I just think that, we ought to look into some kind of finance. If we just have to put a police officer that's click certified in that position, we need to do that. Because I know when we have city council meeting at night when them doors is open, hey, people can be prowling. And there's nobody down there at all. And y'all know I'm right up here. Nobody's down there watching for our interest up here. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just hope it never does. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention. At least if it does, can't say it hadn't been said. And I appreciate you, Mr. Tugger, for getting this together. And I sent you these pictures when I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you put them on. And thank you, Mr. Gordon, for collecting this for me. But all we're trying to do is protect our citizens here in Muskogee, here at City Hall, and our council, and everybody here in this building. Like I say, people are crazy now.
So we need to move forward with no action on this, or staff directive?
Yeah,
or?
I think I've got sufficient direction if
Okay.
everyone has the same opinion that we should study this and come up with a proposal. And then once we have a couple of cost estimates for several different degrees of how to do it, then we can bring those forward to the council, and then we'll also have some funding recommendations too as to what where we can pay from or what we can substitute in our funding so that we remain within our budget.
We may have more information on this than some of us are aware of. It's already been looked at more than once.
Yes, it has.
In the few years
Yes.
that I've been around. Okay. So that concludes our agenda with item number 4. And Mr. Van, you had signed up to speak for 3 minutes on a non-agenda item.
Good evening. Ivory Van, 911 East Holden. I was just going to tell you a little bit about my trip. I brought my cousin up here. He's been up here before. And 2 weeks ago, he graduated from the Air Force Academy. You've probably seen it on TV. And President Obama, he done the address. And you talking about a great program. It was a great program. And the flyover after the ceremony, it was even greater. But I'm proud of my cousin, Julius Walker, that lives in, he'll be going to Mississippi. He got his degree in physics at the academy. And also, he's going to Mississippi to learn how to fly some more, and he's going to be a fighter pilot. So I'm definitely proud of him. And like I said, North Carolina I had a very nice trip. I went to a lot of states. We drove him back from Colorado Springs to North Carolina, stopped in Tennessee, had a lovely time. But like I said, it was just also when I was at the Air Force Academy, I met a general. He was with Saddam Hussein. He got shot down. And he was a prisoner of war for a year over there. Real nice man. So I went to take a picture with him, and you know how I am. I like to take pictures. So I walked up to him and asked him, could I take a picture with you? He said, sure. So after I'd done that, it was just like a wave. People just coming up to him wanting to take pictures. But like I said, I had definitely a nice time in Colorado Springs in North Carolina. But this will be the last time. I've seen President Obama 3 times in person. And that week 2 weeks ago was my last time of seeing him. So I thought this was very important, and I'm happy to be back home. But I really say God has really blessed me in my life to get the experiences I have experienced. And like I said, I'm good to be back. I'm glad to be back home to the city council. And I know y'all glad to see me home.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our agenda for the Public Works meeting, and we will now go to the special call meeting of the Muskogee Redevelopment Authority. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Gully. Dan Hall. Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1.
Consider approval of the Muskogee Redevelopment Authority minutes of May 23rd, 2016.
Is there changes or corrections that need to be made in the minutes? If not, I entertain a motion.
Move the approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. That motion carries. Item number 2, please.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. A, pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the downtown corridor within the city of Muskogee and take any necessary action in open session. B, pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the urban renewal area within the northwest corridor of the city of Muskogee and take any necessary action in open session.
Entertain a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment or question? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now consider ourselves in executive session. There's a few. We'll now reconvene out of our executive session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
We're accounted for on item 2A and B. Mr. Beasy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the downtown corridor of the city of Muskogee, and based upon the discussion, no action is necessary. B, pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the urban renewal area in the northwest corner of the city of Muskogee. And after being fully briefed, I believe a motion is appropriate, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a brokerage agreement within the terms authorized by council with Orion Realty.
I'd entertain that motion.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries, and that concludes our agenda. Thank you.